All right, this is a webinar on AI tools that actually save you time. We presented this to the members of Food and Beverage Manitoba back in February. The recording itself didn't really turn out properly, and so we've just re-recorded this. So anyone who missed that webinar can actually be able to see this and actually benefit from the webinar. So thank you to Food and Beverage Manitoba for making this happen, and excited to show you this, and excited to give you a chance to see some things out there. A little bit about my partner and I. Kenny is not here for the re-recording. That's us on the left there, who's who. So we teach Canadian businesses on how to build, grow, and scale retail. We help organizations understand what it really takes to build and scale brands. This is all based on real-world expertise. Collectively, Kenny and I have decades of experience. That's another way of saying we're old. As buyers, as sales strategists, marketers, we've been through, kind of the retail grind. We continue to do it. We actually love it a lot. And so we try and marry practical teachings and real-world expertise and try and put them together. We do this for organizations like Food and Beverage Manitoba. We also do this on our own as well. We are really committed to helping small, medium businesses in particular find their niche, grow, and then be profitable in the retail world. And then you can see we've worked with a bunch of organizations across the country. So we have quite a bit of experience, not only in Manitoba, but right across the country. And then if you wanted to find out more, you could just head to www.thiscommercelife.com and check us out. The other thing that we do is we have a podcast. We spend a lot of time, we put out an episode every week talking to local businesses, and talking to them about, small, medium businesses and how they scale and, what things have they run into. So if you ever looking to hang out or listen to another entrepreneur's experience, if you're looking to see, try and find some inspiration, head to head to thiscommercelife.com or go to Spotify or YouTube, anywhere that you might get, a podcast and check us out. Okay, so what we presented was AI tools that actually save you time, so you can get back to your business. And we do this because we know that AI is everywhere. ChatGPT and Claude have been in the news since February. It's been even more in the news. You hear U.S. military using some of this stuff. There's all sorts of weird global, kind of things that people use AI for. However, between those and then production schedules, retail orders, everything else that you're trying to solve, real estate issues, retail pricing, working with retailers, who really has time to become a tech expert, right? So you get a lot of webinars where they kind of give you the theory behind why things happen or why they do what they do. In this session, we don't do that. We actually skip most of the hype and then just show you practical tools that have real productivity gains for food and beverage businesses. We don't do theoretical. We will give you some theory when we need to, but none of it's fluff. And then we do live demos of tools we use to cut hours from routine tasks, that we use for things like pitches and social content, organizing buyer lists, and more. What we're hoping is that you walk away with some simple shortcuts that start to free up your time, so that you can go back to growing your brand, perfecting your product, or honestly, most entrepreneurs need breaks. And so, that's also part of what we do is trying to make sure that, you have time to take a break as a founder, that you have time to be able to do something else besides work. Most of us choose it, but, we want you to have the option to choose it and not have to grind your way through everything. And then, lastly, this is really for busy food entrepreneurs who need practical solutions, not a tech lecture. Okay. So a few things that you're going to get out of this session. So one, you're going to see some examples on how to use generative AI. We're going to go through some quick tips on how to keep yourself safe while using AI tools. And then we're also going to teach you how to learn to ask the right questions to get the right AI answers. And then hopefully what we do is we show you how to cut hours from routine tasks. Things like writing retail pitches, creating social content, organizing buyer lists, all sorts of things that that we have to spend time on, but oh gosh, is it a killer to spend all this time? Okay. And then we're going to give you examples on how not to use your AI. So we say this a lot is you already have Google, use Google for Google. Don't use Google to do, don't use Google for AI things and don't use AI things for Google things. They are different. Okay. We'll show you what that means. First things first, it's almost a public service announcement is there are a lot of AI models and tools and chatbots and apps. Don't accumulate them. So my best recommendation here is, the phrase hire fast, fire slow, or hire slow, fire fast. What you want to be able to do is take on a tool that looks interesting, but be quick to be biased about it. Be quick to decide this isn't right for me or this costs a lot of time. And then fire fast, right? So, make sure that you are you are being very discriminatory about what you're using. You don't need 18,000 apps. They accumulate and they cost. So all of those things are reasons that you evaluate quickly, make a decision, and move on. Okay, and then make sure you cancel, so that you benefit from free, or that you are able to, get out of this as quick as possible, so you don't blow a lot of time. Again, we're not tech experts. What we're trying to do is make life easier, which means you don't necessarily need to learn a lot of new things. Make sure that along the same lines, you stay focused on what you need. So all the good apps cost a little bit. Too many cost lots of little bits. And so just make sure that, whether this is AI tools that you have to implement, whether it's apps that go on your website, all of these sort of things, make sure that you're regularly cleaning, and then take out the things that don't mean anything to you. If there's no ROI on it, if there's no return, even if it's a gut feel and you know it just from gut and you don't have empirical, make sure that you keep asking what you need this for. And then watch your monthly subscriptions, because that'll tell you when you, when you've got things that you're no longer using that you keep paying for. And then adopt slow, fail fast, right? So again, I screwed up that phrase on the other slide, but adopt slow, fail fast. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Ditch it fast and unsubscribe fast, okay? And then the other thing I'll say is the other power that you have is when you encounter a new app that you don't necessarily know, or that's new and it's up and coming, make friends with the app makers. They want to hear from you, right? Because they're all about building for scalability. And so sometimes when you ask them questions or you give them insight on what you're using it for, it helps them. And in turn, it helps you, right? So you, especially with, foundling app companies, if you make friends with them and just tell them, you don't need to be fancy, you don't need to know tech language, just tell them what you're using it for and what your challenges are for. An app maker generally wants to hear what you have to say. They crave it because that allows them to make a better tool. So hopefully that in turn gets you something that is more usable for you. Okay. Now, a couple of things that we do that we want to make sure you're always thinking about, right? Is, again, the pros for AI. It's available 24/7. We talk about this a lot, so you might have seen this on the first AI tool that we did, the first AI thing that we did with Food and Beverage Manitoba. AI is available 24/7. Customer service chatbots can be available all the time. That's a great thing, right? Maybe you're available, that you are present for customers, that sort of thing. It can be used to complete highly repetitive, tedious tasks. So that way you don't have to do it. I don't know about you. I get bored a lot. I do not like to do repetitive tasks. And so AI can be used to do such things. Okay. And it's really great for identifying patterns or figuring out better workflows, creating efficiency so that you can process data quickly. All of these are pros. Okay. The cons. The solution lacks human emotion, creativity, critical thinking, the human touch, right? And so this is one where, as a business, you got to make sure that you keep control of your brand, you keep control of your voice, that when AI generates information, that you are putting it out into the world in a way that is your voice. It sounds like you. And then, AI, it needs to be constantly fed with new data to keep it relevant and accurate, right? So it doesn't really learn from its own mistakes. So you need to fact check and make sure that you get the mistakes, catch the mistakes, okay? And then AI development can be expensive. AI machines require investment, long-term financial investment. So that means that as you build tools, there's kind of a larger conversation right now around AI bots, if you're following that. All of those things, they cost a lot of money that haven't quite translated. So the cautionary tale here is, if you rely too much on it, it may cost you a lot down the road. Also, it might mean that the tools that you're using might not be keeping up because they don't necessarily have the funds to develop that quickly. Okay. On those notes, the other thing is the 10-80-10 rule. So the first 10% of effort is you doing the thinking. What do I need out of the tool? Make sure you're asking questions right. Make sure that you're directing the tool properly. The 80% then is AI doing the work. And then the last 10% is you finishing it, fact checking and voice checking. I will give you an example. Is I put out a podcast. We put out a podcast episode every week. And sometimes what I do, I'll show you the process later on in this webinar, but we actually use AI to help us with creating descriptions and those sort of things. And I have always thought that I do a decent job at making sure that I keep our voice. But I actually put, it's new for us, I put the podcast on Reddit, or shared the episode on Reddit, and Reddit was the first to kind of go, we don't like your voice. We think this is too AI and this is not you. Like, you record this wicked podcast. When we listen to it, we know it's you, but when we read the description, it is not you. Okay? That is a good gut check that what I've done is relied too much on AI. That can happen to anyone. Okay? And so what you have to do is just make sure you're constantly checking is, even though it does the work, it has to go out sounding like you. That means there are always going to be revisions to what is being said to make sure that you, in fact, are doing this properly. Okay? Make sure you protect your work. So we all love free. I'm all about the free software. I'm all about, free and making things free. But make sure that if you are using it, that if you're going to use a free version, that you make sure you adjust, how you do that. So this GIF that's kind of repeating on the right here is how you get to data controls, and then there's a field called model improvement, and then there's a field that says improve the model for everyone, which is pretty benevolent about, hey, I could make the world a better place. The only thing is it means it's sharing all of your information. So if you're using it for fairly generic things, that's totally okay. If you're going to use it for something somewhat more private and you have to use free, I would make sure you flip that off so that you are not sharing all your information with everybody. Having said that, we do suggest that you have a paid version. At least that puts you behind a paywall. It guarantees some privacy to what you do. You just need to be cautious that, again, this is the internet and you're putting your stuff out on the cloud. And so you just have to be careful that you are, in fact, protecting yourself. Okay. This is really important if you have proprietary recipes, that sort of thing. You know, I have students that I teach at a local college near me, and some of them will put their immigration paperwork or their educational paperwork through. They'll scan it and load it so that ChatGPT or Claude can give them a summary. So in those moments, you do want a paid version so that none of your information gets out into the rest of the world. Okay. The other one that's tied to that, and then I promise I'm almost done here and we'll get into the real life stuff, is make sure that in your business that you are keeping confidential. If you have employees and they are using an AI tool, make sure that they're using a paid version or they're using the company version so that you keep all of the information private. And then make sure that you're reviewing all of the information that comes out from AI to make sure that it is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. And then lastly is just consider that results are based on probability. AI isn't inventing new things, it's reskinning old things. And so you just need to make sure that you know what the truth is. Do not be using AI for all of it. You need to trust but verify. Okay, always trust but verify. And then AI has no sense of what's offensive and not offensive. So the way we say this is AI is like an excited kid. They will fetch as much information as you ask it to. It's your job to give it parameters and borders. Okay, so a few things that you can do, 10 things that you can do with your AI tool that you can do fast and you can do well. Okay, so the last slide was where, all of the precautionary tales and the preparation stuff ended. We jump into practical now for real, and I'll show you a bunch of things. So you can write a bunch of things here. So, a 5-minute retail pitch email. You can do that. If you've never done that before, gosh, is that daunting. But you can do this through, an AI tool and probably get a pretty good version of what you need fairly quickly. Again, brush it after for sound. You can get a week of social media for your upcoming promo, product photo descriptions, all these sort of things in your brand voice and style. You can get a few weeks worth of Instagram captions, Facebook posts, hashtag sets, fairly quickly, and I'll show you how to do some of those things. You can turn one piece of content into 5. If you have a product description, and you're struggling with content, you can use AI to help you get ideas on what you should write. You can get AI to generate you a whole bunch of things out of this that you can then edit. So that you can actually get to, kind of a place where you've got you've maximized the amount of content that you can get with one piece of content. Okay. You can use it to sort messy spreadsheets. You've got contacts, you've got sales data. You can throw all this into, AI and ask it to sort by retailer type, province, all sorts of things that, can help you organize your spreadsheets and actually get you, to a place where you want to be. If you want to find out what the pricing should be, you can ask AI to go out and find other, what retailers are selling comparable product or competitors' products at, so that you can do that. But you can also do that in Google. The other things that are on here, draft sell sheets in minutes. This is a big one that is really helpful. Explain a regulation to me like I'm busy. So CFIA, God bless them, they do a lot to keep us safe. But sometimes I struggle with, what does this all mean exactly? And so I might take a section of the CFIA guideline and stick it into Claude so that I get some sort of answer that allows me to, be able to figure out what I need to focus on and what I don't need to focus on. You can use it for meeting prep. If you've got a buyer's meeting the next day, You've been working all day and you're scrambling. Give AI the retailer's name, website, do some research, ask it for some summaries on store formats, product categories, recent news. So at least you're coming in prepped a little bit more, okay? If you want a customer survey, sometimes you want to know things, and maybe you want to know some things, but you don't know what else you should be asking. You can get some ideas out of AI about what could I be asking that might help me, or what things are people talking about that I should be dialed into. And then finally, the last one, your own FAQ objection cheat sheet. When salespeople go to sell product, common answers are, it's too expensive. Why do I need this? How does this compare with? Some of those things you can draw some ideas out of AI that allows you to start to think about, kind of a sell, a benefit, an objection, opportunity that allows you to make a sale. Okay. How do you do those things and do them efficiently, quickly and efficiently? So you can wander around. You can ask it a lot of questions, but the other thing that you can do is be specific, be directive, be critical. And then the last one that you've heard us talk about already is use Google for Google. Okay, so don't Google it. Be very descriptive, specific, and critical about what you want. So let me show you what that means. I promised you that, we would be practical about this. So be specific. Give as many details as you can. Don't be shy about using URLs, specific attachments, requests for brand requirements. Longer sentences should be a requirement. So I use Claude. You can use ChatGPT. It works just fine, or whatever you're using. Gemini, all of them will do the same thing. So make sure that you use all the tips at your disposal. Okay, so one is, if you have an idea, record it and then upload it, the sound files, so that AI can hear what you have to say, your insight or your idea. Okay, that helps. If you have pictures, upload the pictures. If you have a URL, upload the URL. If you have an attachment, upload the attachment. And I'll give you an exact example in a second. Be directive. We're Canadian, but don't be polite. You can still use please, but be brutal. One of the key phrases that you should be using is do not hallucinate. So i.e., if I give you details or I'm having you analyze sales data, I do not want you going out into the internet to find me something else to add in here. I want you to use only my data and only the criteria that I deem, relevant to this conversation. The other one is don't draw outside sources and don't imagine an outcome. These three key phrases will help AI from wandering around on you, and making sure that you actually get what you need out of it, that it doesn't go out and extract you sales data that you don't have. Okay. The other one is be critical. Correct spelling. So I can actually tell it correct spelling from greens in beans. So kind of this greens with an N apostrophe beans to greens and beans. Because those things matter, the details matter here. Okay. And then revise. And then the other one that I can say is revise the writing from third-party perspective to my perspective as the founder. So all of these things are things that I can correct in the writing that I don't have to edit later, and also allow me to, keep control of the thing I'm asking for. And finally, again, don't use this for Google. Don't search for things. Be specific. And then trust but verify. So let me give you an example. This is actually something I did. A common usage is write an article, 650 words, that is SEO optimized on Ravida. So I work with a distributor that carries Ravida, and we wanted a nice article for the holidays. Okay, and so I wrote an article, and so I could have stopped there. So I could have stopped at write an article, 650 words on Ravida. But instead, I put in the URL, so I'm very specific about this is the brand. I don't want you to go out and just guess. I want it SEO optimized, so I want you to go in and find keywords that I should be using and use them. And then I went even farther to say how Canadian retailers should be utilizing this brand to maximize sales, holiday sales. Okay, so again, very specific about what I want, very specific about how it should happen, so that I can get a very specific outcome out of this. Okay, and then I even told it. I went one step further to say focus on, and then extra virgin, the Ravida extra virgin olive oil. You can see that URL here, and then the sea salt product. Right, so two products I wanted you to focus on because during the holidays, both of these are really great items for holiday meals and all those sort of things. Okay, and then you can see it actually kind of spins up a an article for me in terms of what I can do and what that article might look like. Now, the less common usage is I can also use it to compete with competition, or think about how I sell things different. So this is one that I can do. Give me a comparison of, and then I gave it Stonewall Kitchen and Wildly Delicious. So they're two sauce brands. One is American, one is Canadian. I wanted some very obvious, comparisons of the two. I also wanted to know what the strengths and weaknesses are. So I asked it to compare, and then I actually asked it to give me why Canadian small grocers and specialty food tailors might want to choose Wildly Delicious over Stonewall Kitchen. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? Very specific use case. And then once it gave it to me, I took it one step further. I said, build this into a sell sheet. Condense the above into shorter points that a sales rep can represent. Use Liber Baskerville font. And I gave it a Pantone color as the brand primary color. Okay, so all of a sudden I've gone kind of like very broad in terms of, actually not that broad, but wider in what I want, and I've narrowed it right down to build me something that I can use that I don't have to spend a lot of time cleaning up or coloring different, like all those sort of things. And you can see this turned out the way I wanted it to, right? So this 751D is this kind of, I'm a guy, so don't take shots at me, but colors are somewhat more absolute for me, and so this is kind of that burgundy-ish dark red color. And then you can see I asked it to use Liber Baskerville, so everything in here is formatted Liber Baskerville. So one is it saves me time. Now I don't have to screw around with fonts or any of those sort of things. I got the color right, so I don't have to spend kind of 15-20 minutes reformatting this whole thing. It intuitively found complementary colors, but I could have gone further to say use this as a background, given it a Pantone color. And then now what I'm doing is I'm editing each point on why you might want Wildly Delicious and targeting Stonewall Kitchen. And then how do I make sure that I've hit the winning points in here? Not did I make it look pretty? Is it look nice? Okay, so very specific, very pointy. This is how we do this in a way that allows you to create some things that are a little bit more interesting. Here's another example. So along the way, I wanted to learn a few things. So I actually asked Claude to build me a consumer profile based on the language and words used in Greenhouse, on greenhouse.ca's site. So Greenhouse is a juice company. I wanted to learn who their target demographics is. I could probably just guess that, but I also wanted to see what Claude would think of this as well, right? So doing research, this was me learning. I wanted to learn about Greenhouse, Greenhouse juices. I wanted to learn about Good Vibes. I also wanted to learn about Drink Bestie. So that so the three of them gave me a comparison of each one and how the demographics change, or how we use different language, or we use language differently. I'm a marketer. Marketers will tell you that language matters, how you say things matter, and then the audience that you're after matters. Okay, and then down here, give me a recommendation of how Drink Bestie can win against Good Vibes Moonshine Mama Greenhouse. Okay, so all of these are me learning. And then, so it spit out this strategic recommendations on how Bestie can win. Okay, so again, learning. There's a recommendation here that I can follow that helps me think about what comes next. Now, not done. This example takes another step. So here's, what comes next out of this is now I can build sell sheets out of this. I can build a market position. Maybe I start to think about like how this could be different. So that I can actually think about, where I want to be in terms of language or who I want to target. Maybe I thought I was going after Greenhouse, but I'm actually going after Good Vibes. There's a lot of kind of like recommendations on how you go about this so that you can actually make this work. Okay. What I've done here is I've just flipped to Claude for a second so you can see. This is my Claude. And then what you can see here is strategic recommendations on how Bestie can win. So current competitive, let me just make that a little bit bigger. So here you can see it actually summarizes what our competitive position is, what our current weaknesses are. It actually goes through a winning strategy on how you might be able to do this. It even identifies what the competitive gaps might be or strategic pillars it takes to win. So all of a sudden you've got, really a way to think about how you do things a little bit different. It actually helps you think about how you go about targeting so that you can win with the stories that you have. It makes some recommendations on recipe drops. How to get to UGC if you want to generate a user-generated content campaign, and then it actually talks about the different ways to go about it. So even here, you can see there's a tactical execution roadmap that allows you to actually build a step-by-step process. Okay, so all of this is kind of like, the front part of what we were doing was learning. The back part about what we're doing is now executing, right? And then it actually gives you a breakdown on how to think about this. So the key thing here is, you almost got to take it one step further because it allows you to help you think about what you can be and then how you get there. Because sometimes we do the thinking and then you realize that it takes a long time to get there. And even now, I don't know if I would use all of these recommendations because that's what they are, they're recommendations. But it certainly gives me food for thought so I can think about what comes next out of this, right? So do I test the theory? Are there pieces of this that I really love? Do I think that I can actually generate UGC content? All of these sort of things. Let's keep going. A working example of how we use two of our favorite tools. All right. So a few things I want to do. So one is, so this tool is called Recast. So it's called Recast Studio. I love this tool a lot. It is a really great tool for generating content and then taking videos and cutting them down to size. We do a podcast. We just released Umame Crave the 5th. It's April 13th. I'm recording this. And so this is our podcast for Umame Crave the 5th. Now, this tool in itself is super practical. It does a few things that you absolutely, it's invaluable to have. So one is it takes your video. So I took the liberty of uploading this so that you didn't have to wait through upload. But now that it's in here, I can do a few things. This little button here, download transcript, it means a lot to me because now it allows me to interface with Claude. I'll show you how that works in a second. While I am in here, if I want to generate clips, so we spent an hour talking to these ladies, Joanne and Stephanie. Sorry, I blanked there for a second. Joanna and Stephanie, they're out of Kelowna, but you can see it's about an hour in terms of the time that we spent with them. So here, what I can do at the top here is I could say I would like Recast to find me clips of kind of soundbite worthy clips. I think I only need 3 at 60 seconds. So I'm going to just pop that in there. And then what this tool will do is go through the video plus the transcript to find relevant, kind of moments or insightful moments that I might be able to post in Reels or socials. And obviously this is a demo, and as soon as I do the demo, it always takes a little bit longer than it's supposed to. But we should have something back in just a sec, I think. So one is, if you think about anything that you ship, anything that you are videoing or filming, the difficulty is in production. The difficulty is finding shorts. You might have to look and record. So for me, I usually wind up listening to most of the podcast again before I produce it. And so you think I spent an hour recording, I spend at least another hour listening to it. I probably wrote down a bunch of clips that I might want to listen to and then carve into shorts. So all in all, it probably takes me, kind of like 2 hours-ish to build a podcast. Now it takes me like half an hour. So in that time, you can see it created one called It's All Her Fault. We actually argue about, Joanna and Stephanie talk about how Stephanie actually, said to Joanna, it's your fault that I'm in this mess, that I'm doing this brand thing. And I actually helped, Stephanie flip the script on her to say, nope, it's actually your fault. So it was funny, and it's a funny moment. So we've got that here. They did wind up buying 50,000 pouches before they realized that their brand name wasn't quite what they want. And then they talk about how their kids saw somebody, buying their product. And so, those are things that, kind of are really kind of worthy clips that Instagram loves, right? So all of a sudden now I have 3 clips I can use. Okay. So, kind of a big deal. If you were doing that on your own, you'd have to probably I'd write down a bunch of time codes. I'd have to go back and listen to them again. I'd have to figure out how to cut them. I'd have to figure out how to produce them, and then also give it a title before I even start thinking about loading this into social media, blah, blah, blah. Okay? This way I don't have to do any of that. It's done for me. All I have to do is save the clips, upload them to social media, write something about them. Okay? Now, the other thing I told you about was this transcript. You can download as a text file, okay? And then what we talked about was specificity, right? And so when I get into Claude, for example, is all of a sudden I can load this transcript. So this is the transcript I loaded. Let me just make sure this is good. And then I will say write a podcast title and description SEO optimized. So it actually did it and wrote me an entire episode description. Now I have to choose whether I want all of these sort of things, right? And so some of it isn't right, for example. So here, this part here, Phil and Kenny sit down literally at Starbucks near the Kelowna airport with Joanna and Stephanie, and that is untrue. So we were online, and then Joanna and Stephanie happened to be in the Kelowna airport at the Starbucks when they dialed in to talk to us. Okay, so it reads reasonably fine, and if I put it out there, no one would be the wiser, except somebody eventually would say to us, hey, what the heck, you guys were in Kelowna at the airport, and I'd have to go, actually, no, we weren't. It was Joanna and Stephanie who were there, not us. So you just got to make sure that the facts are right. AI is not going to get this right every time. And then there are moments in here that I am not sure I like some of this wording. I would not say these things. So they share a hard won lesson in SKU naming disasters. I would not say it like that, and I didn't. So I corrected what was in here when I when I when I rewrote this or I posted it. So all of a sudden you can, it changes things that you do or how you do them. Okay. But you can see here, I use this, and then I said, even give me SEO search terms for this episode. So it did. Actually, sorry. And then here, I actually asked it to give me search terms separated by commas. Again, for the same sort of reason, right? Because I want to be able to post it. Hashtags doesn't copy and paste properly into YouTube, nor does it in my podcast host platform. And so this allows me to do it the way I wanted it, saves me time. And then I actually posted a LinkedIn post for this, right? So then I had to, I rebuilt one of these for this. Now, I also, I didn't use it for this. I built my own tile, but what I could have done is, so with those, with Umame Crave the Fifth, the thread I had was too long. You can see that. So I'm actually going to do this, and then I'm going to put in the transcript I have that I downloaded. So that is this one here. And then I'm going to upload. So sometimes, the tools are not infallible, right? There are moments, as a lot of us users get on this, there are moments that it's gonna need you to recalibrate a little. So you can see it working. So I have a podcast episode that now I can spin into something, that I can turn into something else, right? So I've got a video podcast episode. I've got an audio podcast episode. You saw the demo. I was able to get some shorts that I can use for Instagram. I've now got a LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram post, and now I'm creating an SEO optimized blog post so that I can post it to the site as well, right? So all of a sudden I've turned one piece of content into kind of like multiple touch points that I can reach users with. Okay. So that's kind of how this, you're able to do things a little bit more specifically that allow you to recreate things, a little bit tighter. And then again, obviously it's okay, so here's what you can see is it actually produced, so a few things, right? So because I gave it my URL, it actually picked up this Commerce Life and the colors and the text that the fonts that we use the most. And then you can actually see how it's put together what the, the structure is, what this looks like. So funny, right? Because we laughed at them because we're all in retail. So we're going to be rich, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm in, and the truth is, how many of us, right? But this is a really kind of cool blog post that I haven't vetted, right? So I don't know if it's all exactly the way I want it, but certainly, it's a great, it's a great kind of podcast episode that I could put up, for example. So again, really great, kind of method for being able to turn one piece of content into many, many, many pieces of content. Okay. So just really important. The other thing that's really cool is this is an HTML. So if you're in Wix, you're in Shopify, whatever, if you copy this post, it should translate almost all of it exactly the way you see it here into a blog post that goes on your site as well, which is kind of cool. Okay, so that's kind of the webinar. What we wanted to do was to show you, how we go about doing things in a way so that we can actually, get you, some productive things that we can help with, that we can help you with, if you are curious about things that we do, or you need help with things, we kind of left you a list of things that we do, in case you ever needed help with anything. And then Kenny and my emails are there, so you can reach us anytime. And if Jennifer says that you can be on the podcast, that QR code takes you to a link that allows you to book time on the podcast. Okay, and then all you got to say is Jennifer sent me, and you are in, because Jennifer is Jennifer and she's awesome. Okay, so that's it for this webinar. Thank you for joining us. Apologies for not being able to put up the original version, but we did our best to make sure that we captured all of the thoughts from the original here. Okay, thanks and have a great day.